Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Oh,
Today, we're going to be looking at some really cool research
okay.
about how AI can help us understand complex information.
Okay.
So imagine, just being able to chat with a graph of data,
Yeah.
like asking it, what's connected to this, or why is that important?
Yeah.
And you don't have to know any complicated code or anything.
Right.
That's exactly what this new method called GRetriever is all about.
Okay.
So we're going to be exploring how it works and why it's such a big deal and what it could mean for the future of data analysis.
It's a fascinating development for sure. A lot of the current methods we have for analyzing graphs with AI are either really limited in what they can do, or they just can't handle the massive amounts of data we have in the real world.
So what's the main problem here?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to analyze text within a graph?
Well, it's not just about connections,
Yeah.
it's about understanding the meaning of the words and how they relate to each other. Think about a social network, for example. You've got people as nodes, their posts as text, and all sorts of relationships between them.
Right, like friendships and shared interests and comments on posts, it's a lot to untangle.
Exactly. And traditional AI methods often struggle with this complexity because you've got different data types,
Yeah.
text relationships, and the potential for ambiguity all mixed together.
Okay, so that's where GRetriever comes in.
Exactly.
How does it approach this problem differently?
So it uses a really clever technique called retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG.
RAG. Okay.
Yeah, think of it like having a super efficient research assistant for the AI.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to process the entire graph at once,
Right.
which would be incredibly inefficient,
Yeah.
the AI gets help focusing on just the relevant information.
Precisely. GRetriever doesn't try to cram all the data into the AI's memory. Instead, it uses our RAG to pinpoint the most important parts of the graph related to your question. It's kind of like using keywords to search for a specific book in a massive library instead of having to read every single book to find what you need.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's more efficient and scalable because it's not trying to process everything at once.
Right.
But how do we know the AI is actually understanding the information and not just making things up?
Right.
I've heard about AI sometimes hallucinating information that isn't really there.
That's a great question and a valid concern with AI systems.
Yeah.
The researchers behind GRetrievers were very aware of this potential issue, and they designed it to prevent these hallucinations by grounding the AI's answers in the actual content of the graph.
Grounding, what does that mean in this context?
Essentially, it means the AI has to show its work.
Okay.
Every statement it makes in its answer has to be directly linked to a specific piece of information within the graph. So it can't just invent facts or make leaps of logic that aren't supported by the data.
So it's like the AI has to cite its sources
Exactly.
to prove its answer is valid. That's a neat way to build trust in the AI's responses.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do they even test something like this? How can we be sure GRetriever actually outperforms other methods?
Well, they created a whole new data set specifically for testing this type of graph question answering.
Okay.
It's essentially a standardized test for AI
Okay.
where they can compare different methods on the same set of questions and see which one performs best.
And how did GRetriever do?
It actually exceeded expectations. It consistently outperformed other state-of-the-art methods
Wow.
across a wide range of tasks and different types of graphs.
Wait, so it's not just good at one specific type of graph. It can handle different kinds of information and relationships.
That's right, and that's what makes this research so exciting. It suggests that this approach is really adaptable and could be applied to all sorts of real-world problems.
Yeah.
It's not just a neat trick, it has real potential.
This is pretty impressive, but can it handle really large graphs?
Yeah.
Like the massive data sets we have in the real world?
That's a great question, and one of the things that really impressed me about this research, they tested GRetriever on increasingly larger graphs. And it scaled remarkably well,
Wow.
maintaining its accuracy and efficiency even with all that added complexity.
So it's not just a theoretical concept, it actually has the potential to work in real-world applications.
It definitely does. It could completely change the way we interact with and understand huge, complex data sets.
This is amazing. We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much to explore. What are some specific areas where GRetriever could make a real impact?
Well, one area that immediately comes to mind is scene graph understanding.
Scene graph understanding.
No, it could revolutionize the way we analyze and interpret images.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's dive into that after a quick break. We'll be right back with more on GRetriever and its potential applications.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how GRetriever could be a game changer for analyzing images, specifically something called scene graphs.
Right.
I had to admit, I'm not really familiar with that term.
Right. It's a fascinating concept. Basically, a scene graph is like a map of an image's content.
Okay.
It represents all the objects in the image and the relationships between them.
So instead of just seeing a picture of, say, a busy street,
Mm.
the scene graph would tell me there's a car driving next to a bus, a person walking on the sidewalk, things like that.
Exactly. It provides a structured way to understand what's happening in the image beyond just the raw pixels.
I see. It adds a layer of meaning to the visual information. And you're saying GRetriever could be used to analyze these scene graphs.
That's right. Imagine being able to ask questions like, is there a bicycle near the crosswalk?
Yeah.
Or what kind of vehicle is parked in front of the store, and get accurate answers directly from the scene graph.
That's incredible. It could be incredibly useful for things like image search,
Right.
or even for self-driving cars that need to understand their surroundings.
Absolutely. And it's not just about identifying objects. GRetriever can also understand the relationships between them, which is crucial for interpreting the overall scene.
Okay, so scene graph understanding is one area where GRetrievers could really shine. What other go?
Well, another area that has researchers really excited is common sense reasoning.
Common sense reasoning.
Yeah, this has been a long-standing challenge in AI, getting computers to understand the implicit information that humans take for granted.
Like how, if I say I spilled coffee on my laptop, you can infer that my laptop is probably not working very well right now, even though I didn't explicitly say that.
Precisely. We make these kinds of inferences all the time based on our understanding of the world, but teaching that to AI systems has been incredibly difficult.
So how could GRetriever help with this?
Well, researchers can create textual graphs that represent this common sense knowledge,
Okay.
like a network of everyday concepts and how they relate to each other. Then GRetriever can be used to query these graphs and answer questions that require understanding those implicit relationships.
So it could be used to train AI systems that are less literal and more capable of understanding nuance and context, like humans do. That's a pretty big deal.
It is, and it has implications for all sorts of things: natural language processing, machine translation, even developing AI assistants that can truly understand our needs and anticipate our requests.
Wow, the possibilities are pretty mind-boggling. So
Yeah.
we've got scene graph, understanding common sense reasoning. What else, what other areas could benefit from this technology?
Well, the researchers also highlight the potential of GRetriever in knowledge graph reasoning.
Knowledge graph reasoning. Okay.
Knowledge graphs are basically massive networks of interconnected facts and concepts. Think of it like a giant machine-readable encyclopedia.
Okay, so like Wikipedia, but supercharged and specifically designed for AI.
Exactly. With GRetriever, you could ask questions about any topic represented in the knowledge graph, history, science, literature, you name it, and get accurate, comprehensive answers based on that vast network of information.
That sounds like a game changer for research and education.
Yeah.
Instead of having to sift through mountains of information, you could just ask the knowledge graph and get the answers you need.
It could really democratize access to knowledge. Imagine students being able to query historical databases to learn about different periods in time, or scientists being able to instantly access the latest research findings in their field.
That's incredible. It's almost like having the world's knowledge at your fingertips, instantly searchable and understandable.
And it all comes back to this innovative method called GRetriever. By combining retrieval and generation, it allows us to interact with these vast knowledge graphs in a way that's both powerful and intuitive.
It's really remarkable. This deep dive has certainly opened my eyes to the potential of this technology.
Me too. It's clear that GRetriever represents a significant step forward in AI research, and it will be exciting to see how it continues to develop and what new applications emerge in the coming years.
While I, for one, am eager to see what the future holds for GRetriever, and this whole idea of chatting with our data, I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface.
I agree, and that brings us to an important question for our listeners.
What are your thoughts? What questions would you ask if you could chat with any data set, social networks, scientific data, historical records, anything at all? Let us know. We love hearing from our fellow knowledge explorers.
And if you're interested in diving deeper into the technical details of GRetriever, we encourage you to check out the original research paper. You can find a link to it in the show notes.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this fascinating deep dive into the world of GRetriever. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring GRetriever and its potential to revolutionize how we interact with data.
It's certainly been a thought-provoking journey, from understanding how GRetriever works to imagining its impact on fields like image analysis and common sense reasoning. It feels like we're on the cusp of a major shift in how we approach data.
Yeah, I completely agree. This research feels like more than just another AI advancement.
Right.
It feels like a step towards making AI genuinely accessible and useful for everyone, regardless of their technical expertise.
That's a key point. The potential to democratize access to knowledge is one of the most exciting aspects of this research.
Hmm.
Imagine a world where anyone can ask complex questions of massive data sets and receive clear, understandable answers.
It's almost like we're moving away from this idea of needing specialized skills to work with data
Hmm.
and towards a future where interacting with information is as natural as having a conversation.
It's a compelling vision, and GRetriever, with its combination of retrieval and generation, seems to be a significant step in that direction.
Of course, as with any powerful technology,
Right.
there are important considerations to keep in mind as this field continues to evolve.
Hmm.
We've talked about the potential benefits, but what about the potential challenges?
One challenge that comes to mind is ensuring that these systems are developed and used responsibly.
Okay.
As GRetriever and similar technologies become more sophisticated, we need to be mindful of their limitations and potential biases.
We can't just assume that the AI is always going to provide perfectly objective and accurate information. We need to understand how the AI arrives at its conclusions and be aware of any potential blind spots in its reasoning.
Exactly. Transparency and critical thinking are crucial. We need to be able to evaluate the AI's responses, understand its limitations, and recognize that it's a tool that should be used thoughtfully and ethically.
It's like any new tool, really. We need to learn how to use it effectively and responsibly to maximize its benefits while mitigating any potential risks.
Well said. It's a balancing act, but a necessary one as we enter this new era of AI-powered data exploration.
And that's what we've tried to do in this deep dive, explore the exciting possibilities of GRetriever while also acknowledging the need for careful consideration and responsible development.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between embracing innovation and ensuring that it serves humanity in a positive and ethical way.
And as always, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What possibilities does GRetriever inspire in you? What questions do you have about the future of AI and data exploration?
Share your thoughts in the comments or connect with us on social media. We're always eager to engage in thoughtful conversations with our fellow knowledge explorers.
And if you're interested in learning more about the technical details of GRetriever, be sure to check out the research paper linked in the show notes.
It's a fascinating read for anyone who wants to delve deeper into the mechanics of this groundbreaking approach.
And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of GRetriever.
It's been a pleasure exploring this cutting-edge research with you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.